This story is called, Hey Santa, You Got a Visitor. About a fortnight before Christmas season really kicked off big time on Staten Island in New York, Superstorm Sandy swept across the island, across New York, across New Jersey, across all of New England. And as old Santa set up in the lovely little cottage they have for him to visit with families at the Staten Island Mall, and the first child sat on his lap of the 2012 season, the newspapers were reporting 97 New Yorkers dead, 250,000 businesses decimated, 300,000 plus residential dwellings damaged or totally destroyed. And as one child told Santa, just a little way from here, down from my house, 17 homes in a row washed out to sea. Santa sat in his cottage, and he looked out at the people, and out in front he had a waiting area behind a white picket fence where he could see people who would come. Some of those people became regulars. And then there was, coming down the corridor of the Staten Island Mall, there's a long line that comes around, wraps around Santa's cottage, so the kids can come into where Santa sits on his throne. And he could see people who were regulars, and some kept coming back. One of them was a lady in a plain cloth coat. Attractive, unassuming, but never, ever smiling. And an elf said, Hey, Santa, you got a visitor. And a very pretty little girl came running into Santa's cottage. She had on black patent leather shoes with a single black shiny stripe. She had a red headband and a beautiful party dress. And her daddy walked around and stood by the white picket fence. And she clambered up onto old Santa's lap. And she put her arm around his neck and she pulled real close to his ear and she said, Santa, I don't know if you can help me with this. I don't know if this is a Santa thing. And Santa looked at her and said, you tell me about it. Tell me about it. Let old Santa see if he can help. And she said, my mommy and daddy got a divorce. I have to live with my daddy. I'm going to a new school and the kids there are so mean to me. And the teachers don't know I'm even there. I miss my friends. I miss my teachers. All I want for Christmas is, can you get mommy and daddy back together? And I want to live with mommy and daddy, and I want my friends back. I want my teachers back. And there was a long line coming way down that corridor. You know, people stand in line for hours to get a portrait with Santa. But old Santa couldn't help but think, sometimes that line has to wait. And Santa talked to this lovely little girl. And they talked about the reason those kids were mean to her was because they were afraid of her. They were afraid they were going to lose their status. They were afraid of her because they didn't know her and how she could get to know her teachers. And they talked for a long time about how mommy loves her, daddy loves her, Santa loves her. And the fact that mommy and daddy aren't together doesn't mean they don't love her. Santa's not together with her either all year, but Santa loves her. And Santa didn't know if he gave her the right answers. Santa never really knows that. But when she slid off his lap and he gave her a coloring book and she ran back to her dad and took his hand and they walked down the corridor, she was smiling, she was happy, she was laughing, and Santa felt pretty good. And he looked out and he saw that lady in the cloth coat was back there again. This time she had a little smile and she left. And Santa sat there, and the elf came around that corner again and said, "Hey, Santa, you got a visitor." But Santa was busy tucking his pant leg back into the boot. Every once in a while you get an errant pant leg, and you know, fur is slippery. And he's tucking that pant leg in, and when he looked up, he's eyeball to eyeball and nose to nose with an Irish wolfhound. Because once a week there is Santa Paws Night. Well, the big guys get to sit next to Santa and lay on the floor out in front of them. And the little guys, they sort of sit there on a white fluffy pillow on Santa's lap. And they get their picture taken. And if their owner is really well trained, they get to sit in the portrait also. That way, they have something every Christmas that they can put up on the bulletin board behind their desk, or on their Facebook page, or send out for a Christmas card. One little fellow, a petite, pink, miniature poodle with a jeweled collar, came in with his very well-dressed, exceedingly chatty owner. She was so busy talking to her girlfriends that after they posed for the picture, she was still gabbing away with her friends. So she took this beautiful, petite, pink poodle, put him down on the floor. Well, you know how exciting Christmas season can be? Do you know what it's like when people are shopping and rushing around and kids are standing in line and there's always that kid back there going, Well, this poor little guy was so excited, he was shaking, and he mistook Santa's boot for a fire hydrant. So Santa was cleaning up down there by those pant legs again. And when he looked up, he looked out, and he could see that lady in the cloth coat again. This time, she was laughing. And she came up, and she walked around the picket fence, cut around the line, walked into Santa's cottage, and she handed him a candy cane this big. And she said, "Santa, I have to give you a present. I lost my house in Superstorm Sandy. I was so depressed I couldn't stand it. FEMA put me up in a motel. I came to the mall to shop because I thought it might make me feel better. This is Staten Island." And it did. Not at first. But I stopped by and I watched the kids and I watched you. And I started to remember every time I came all of those good Christmases with my family. And I started to feel better. And I want to say thank you, Santa. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all those memories. Thank you for helping me get them back. I'm going to go visit my kids for Christmas. I finished my shopping. I feel better. And she gave Santa the big candy cane, and she smiled, and she shook his hand, and she left.
Walter.
And Santa thought, you know, every once in a while, Santa gets a gift. And an elf stuck her head around the corner, and she said, "Hey, Santa! It's Christmas Eve. You got a long trip to make." And she escorted Santa back to his private office. And he put all of his gear into a big red bag. And he put it over his shoulder. And he walked to his private, unmarked exit. And he pushed open the door. And he stood there for a moment and he thought, you know, Santa was very lucky this year. He was visited by 3 visitors. One who reminded him the important thing of Christmas and of every holiday is that we let those who matter know we love them. The second visitor reminded Santa that no matter how exciting, how stressful, how problematic a holiday is, pay attention to those who matter, those who are important in your life. And the third visitor had an important lesson for Santa. No matter what holiday it is, take time for those you love. And Santa stepped out into a very cold, dark Christmas Eve. And there were thousands of Christmas lights shining everywhere in the area. And they were glimmering because there was the first falling snow of the season. And Santa couldn't help but say, Merry Christmas to all, and to all, good night.
Ross,